Hello, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with artists from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. Hi, and welcome to episode 132. This week I'm speaking with Georgina Hoby Scutt. Georgina is a painter living in Nelson in the South Island of New Zealand. Informed by her print and pattern textile design background, Georgie develops distinctive warm and earthy colour palettes and paints with broad expressive brushstrokes. Her work is primarily semi-abstracted landscapes, still lifes and portraits. I really loved meeting Georgie. We have a cool chat about how she came to be a full-time painter 8 years ago, how being a self-taught artist makes her feel, and what she would like to learn more about and connect with to help further inform her practice. We discuss her approach to painting and paint, how she developed her own style, and what it represents to her. She shares her process and tells us how she selects a composition for her still life paintings and how she responds to the environment inspired by walking in nature, but not necessarily representing exactly what she sees. We talk about her use of colour and simplified strong shapes, how she likes to have a number of artworks on the go so they can inform and talk to each other in some way, and what she is still learning about the colour blue. Ngā mihi nui, thank you so very much to Tūroa Gallery for generously supporting this episode. I am really looking forward to seeing Georgina's work at her joint show coming up later this month at Tūroa. It's called Duality, and it's from the 26th of July till the 7th of August 2024. See you there. Good morning, Georgie.
Good morning.
Lovely to meet you.
You too, Mandy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on the show. I'm really excited. I was contacted by Tūroa Gallery to talk to you and Jamie because you have a very exciting show coming up called Duality, which starts on July the 26th and runs till August the 7th. You must be excited about that.
I am excited. Yeah, it's always great to work with Tūroa. They make things really, really easy. And Liz has such a positive vibe across everything she does. So it's always a pleasure to work with them. And she proposed the joint show, which was, something completely new for me. I didn't really know a lot about Jamie's work. So it's quite intriguing to see how our work will sit together. And I've talked with him, I've discussed with him how that's going to go, but we've both agreed that we're just going to follow our usual process and let Liz work the magic at her end.
Yeah, that's perfect. After speaking with Jamie last week, I can really see your works going together, even just this kind of natural hues. I think would look really beautiful, and I think that your work will really complement each other, which will be lovely.
Great. Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to that part of it because I think he's creating really beautiful forms. So it's going to be nice. I mean, probably a juxtaposition, and that's where the title came from, Duality, because our work is quite different, but I think in a lot of ways that can be a lot more interesting than artists whose work is similar. I think that's almost hard to get on walls. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'd be great. I think it'd be a lovely contrast. So let's get into your story, Georgie. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were like as a child?
Yes, I'm the middle child, three girls. We were three girls growing up in Nelson. And I did always love drawing and being creative. but I was quite sporty and into everything, really. I think I was a pretty easy child from all accounts. And the family, we didn't really have any art background as such, in terms of any parents or relatives being in the art world. I do remember my mother taking me to the Suter Art Gallery, which is the main public art gallery here in Nelson. Quite vivid memories of that, which I loved. But I did do a few art classes at school, but other than that, that was probably it in terms of the arts stuff. Yeah.
And were you studying art at high school?
So in college, it was just general art, which I took all the way through. And they had just started the design course as well, which I think I took just in my last year at college, alongside art, which, yeah, I enjoyed that as well, that side of it, the design side of it, which is ultimately where I ended up for quite a while.
So were you thinking that you would definitely be somebody who would have a creative career, do you think?
I think that for me probably was always something I desired, but I'm not sure if I had the conviction to go through with it straight out of school. I took a gap year, went to England to try and, well, part and see the world and have some life experience to really decide what I wanted to go and study at university. And I do remember my father being in my ear saying, I don't know about just a straight arts degree. I'm not sure where that's going to get you. And so in the end, I studied a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Commerce. And I think the commerce degree felt like a backup for me, a bit of a safety net in a way. It wasn't a strong combination for me coming out of it. I did the 2 degrees that took me 4 years at Otago. I had a fantastic time. But then I found myself in Wellington looking for jobs, and I was definitely erring towards the design side of it. And I guess ultimately competing with graduates who'd come out of doing a full-time design degree. And so, yeah, I think the combination, it didn't feel that strong for me in terms of what I wanted to do. But I did end up working in graphic design on the account management side. So I was more on the suit side of it, and did that for a few years and had some really good experience there. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't creatively fulfilled.
Right. And then you
Yeah.
found you did actually find yourself in textile design, is that right?
Yeah, I did. Actually, my boss in Wellington, when I was working at Capiche Design, Mark, he was a pretty amazing guy, actually. And he provided for all of us as a team. He let us work with a visualization coach. And we had these sessions, and she got us to imagine our ideal life right down to the detail and really visualize that as a lead to where we wanted to go. And that was the first time I think I had really realized and articulated that I wanted to get into textile design, move overseas, and start this exciting new chapter. And so I did, that carried through for me. And I left for London. I worked in a private equity firm because I was on a working holiday visa. But in my any spare time, I did evening classes and weekend courses on printmaking and textile design, and tapped into those amazing resources in London. So studied at Central St Martin's and Chelsea and Camberwell College of Art, and loved it, absolutely loved it, and spent the weekends going to the Royal Academy of Arts and all the incredible galleries and just soaking it all up. And I thought, this is me. This is really me. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like heaven.
It was. It was an amazing time, actually, looking back. And then I moved to Barcelona and I'd been putting together a portfolio of textile design, and I moved to Barcelona and worked freelance, selling surface pattern design for the next few years. Yeah,
Wow. How
yeah.
amazing. And why Barcelona, and how did you find working in Barcelona when I presume you didn't speak Spanish?
Yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve. I sort of jumped in there. I'd done some traveling around Europe, just really quick visits, and in Spain, I just thought I was totally intrigued with just the whole vibe, the feeling, the energy, the light in Spain, and went to Barcelona and thought, God, this place is just incredible. It's just this intoxicating kind of mix of culture and history and the language. It all just it felt so appealing to me. So my 2-year working holiday visa was up in London, and I thought, well, I need to make some decisions. And my now husband I'd met him in London, and he had moved to Spain to start a new job there. So I was pretty lucky. That was my landing pad, really. He'd set
Yeah.
himself. I moved there. Yeah.
Wow. And
Mm.
Barcelona, I mean, I think it's one of my favorite cities. I just love it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think probably even more so at the time. I was there between 2004 and 2009. And I almost think that was the end of it. It's really magic time. It has changed a lot since then. But yeah, it was just so cosmopolitan as well. And so just this wonderful mix of so many nationalities, and we met great people from all over. And being on the sea and just the climate, it was, yeah, it was a really liberating time. I jumped into Spanish classes and tried to learn that as fast as I could. But ultimately, I was really working through an agency, well, two agencies. One was based back in London and one was in the US. So I was in Barcelona, but not really working locally. So
Okay.
luckily didn't have to master the language.
Yeah. And Barcelona is very English speaking anyway, isn't it?
Mm, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of English spoken. So even across, we had friends from Germany and Denmark, and they all ended up speaking English with us. So
Mm.
that was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps. So how you were getting pretty creative in that sort of industry. How did you come to having a painting practice?
So that didn't happen until we moved back to New Zealand. I felt for the last couple of years in Spain, I was sort of treading water a little bit. We were waiting for an opening, really, for my husband to move home with his job. And although I was still designing, it felt like I was, just treading water a little bit, not really getting where I wanted to go to. I probably didn't know where that was, to be fair, but I felt like I was going over the same territory with the surface design, and knew that I wanted to do something more creatively. Um, and then I just had this urge to leave the computer and get into something more tactile. And I started thinking about painting and looking at painting. And we'd had our first child. So had my eldest was born in Spain. And then we moved back to New Zealand, had another child. And I it was a really, really busy time. And I still just felt that I had to put everything to the side and just wait, because I knew if I wanted to get into painting, it would be some real chunks of time. And then we had Lily, our third child. So it was just a super busy time of being a mum, and it was brilliant. But I just felt like I was just waiting and waiting and dying to get to this creative stuff, which I couldn't get to. So, and in a way, I already felt like I'd put a lot on hold to be a mother, which I know is a privilege in itself. And I really enjoyed that time. But there was this growing sense of need to get a paintbrush out and just do something. So finally, when Lily went to preschool, so she turned 3, went to preschool, and I turned 40, was the time that I picked up a paintbrush. And I just think there was so much energy and desire and passion and frustration and all those things that had built up by that time that it just absolutely flowed out of me. Yeah.
How amazing. And so
Yeah.
great that you sort of finally got your moment.
Yeah, it did feel amazing, and it was quite cathartic. And I just remember sort of laughing and crying and
Really?
all this pent up emotion, I think, of just thinking I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And it was just so amazing to finally just feel like I could get to it. Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that incredible? That's just such a lovely story. And at the beginning, so you say you were 40 when you started painting.
Mm.
What year was that?
2016.
Okay, so about 8 years ago. So what were you painting at the beginning? And could you see a connection then with your textile design?
Not immediately. I almost think it was in response to the sort of getting away from the computer. I think the first works that I did were actually almost expressive abstracts. They were totally abstract, and I think it was just all that emotion coming out actually. So it was just it was only after that I started to then pull things that became more figurative out of it, and started painting landscapes and still lifes, although they're still semi-abstracted. But the first few works were really free-flowing. Yeah.
And that would have been a reflection on you sort of finding your freedom almost.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny, I'd quite like to go full circle in some ways and get back to that, just because it was uninhibited completely. I had no expectation of what my work would look like or be. Yeah, I think it was just the first initial phases of me painting was, completely just feeling my way, but also without, any expectation of what it would be, what my style would be, what my painting would look like. And so that is actually really freeing in
Yeah.
itself. Yeah.
And that was, I guess, quite an experimental stage for you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
And were you feeling like you were a self-taught painter, or had you actually done quite a few workshops in London with painting?
I hadn't done any painting workshops. A little while after I started here in Nelson, I did 1 or 2 classes. But other than that, completely self-taught. And I think that definitely has its pros and cons. Technically, there's still things that I would like to work on and pick up and learn. I dabble with oils, but I think that I'd like to do some more work, some more study and learning on working with oils, because there's such a different medium. I've always worked primarily in acrylics. Yeah, there's lots of areas that I'd like to work into a little bit further. And I think in terms of confidence with using oils as a medium, it'd be great to go back and study that a little bit in some workshops or classes. Yeah.
Yeah. And also it just gives you I guess it gives you a little bit of confidence sometimes to have some sort of study as a bit of a backup.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it really, really does. And it's maybe for me, it's a thing of the further you go, the more aware you are of the gaps, and yeah, that maybe the less you know. So I definitely feel like I need to kind of acquire some more skills now. That's something in my practice, which I think 8 or so years in, I think it's time to get back into some more learning. I feel like I've been working away largely in isolation. And I think that, it'd be really nice to pull in some people, teachers, resources, mentors, gallerists into that circle, so that, just to inform my practice a little bit now.
Yeah, it's like building a support network or building your community in some ways. But also you would have done a lot of learning just from painting.
A lot. And I do agree with that, just keep painting, just keep painting and paint through it and make the mistakes. And I've definitely done that. And I look back at some work and think, not my best. But then out of that, and often in a lead up to an exhibition, when I'm painting more intensively, that is when my best work comes. So I do agree with that sort of painting fitness. You work and then you really hit that momentum and flow, and you're really working at your best.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never worried that I hadn't studied fine arts particularly. I feel like I'd studied other things formally, and I feel like I did a lot of life study when I was living overseas. And I think that was part of me not picking up a paintbrush until age 40. I don't think I would have been ready before then. I think there's so much in the tank by that stage. And I was fully formed by that stage in terms of confident enough to put myself out into the world with my painting. That was definitely all part of it. Whether or not there's kind of a ceiling that you reach as an artist without formal qualification, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I guess it's quite an individual thing. Some people feel like they need that to sort of further their practice, and some people don't.
Yeah. I mean, Hoby Rain, I thought, wow, that's a deep study of your craft over many years, and it's really impressive. And I know, that you can go completely the other way, and that would be me. I guess I'm the other end of the scale. But there's a lovely freedom to that. But we're also independently studying, I think, all of us all the time. I mean, I'm constantly researching artists online and looking at work online and in the galleries and learning all the time. So, yeah.
That's right. The learning doesn't have to happen in a university necessarily.
No. Yeah.
And I've just kind of realized with the podcast, I have a degree in education, not in fine arts. And I've always been really interested in New Zealand art. When I worked at the Auckland Art Gallery, that was something I considered doing for a period of time, going back to university and studying. But I think doing the podcast is like some sort of strange way of learning in some ways. For me, it's probably the best way for me to learn is to be researching and then talking, rather than sitting in a lecture hall. So it kind of it's interesting all the way through your life. There's new opportunities to learn, and it may not necessarily be in that traditional way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you will have an amazing library of contemporary New Zealand artists. Such a wonderful resource, and probably a really nice journey along the way.
Yeah, it really is. And it definitely informs my own practice.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is nice. Yeah. So, Georgie, can we talk about your practice? Can you describe your paintings? I know you kind of have, like you said, different genres, but overall, can you describe what your paintings look like to someone who has never seen them?
Sure. I describe myself or my work as semi-abstracted, by which I mean there's an element of the figurative, but I tend to be quite loose and gestural with brushstrokes, and I use quite broad, wide brushstrokes. Nothing's particularly detailed. There aren't any straight lines. It's quite a sort of loose style, I guess. Mostly, my color palette is really important to me. And I realized after a while that that's what people were recognizing consistently in my work was this usually warm, often autumnal, muted palette, earthy colors. I do mostly landscapes and still life works, and a few portraits. Yeah, I generally think of myself now as a colorist, because I think color is probably the most important part of painting to me. I just want to make the color sing, and I'm constantly looking for those really powerful or uplifting combinations of color that play off one another, and just create some beautiful harmonies there.
Yeah, and you really do.
Thank you.
You take colour to a whole new level. And I think it is a real characteristic of your work, as you say, that colour palette, which is quite a lovely thing, isn't it? Even between your landscapes and your still life, you can still kind of tell it's the same artist.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I always want it to look distinctively me. And it's interesting as we all go along our creative, on our creative journeys. I think it's important to push boundaries and explore new things, but I never want it to look forced or disingenuous or inconsistent with what is inherently my style.
Yeah. And it's so lovely in 8 years that you've really found your style. How do you think you actually got started with creating works that are very much your style?
Gosh, so intuitive. I think for me it's hard to describe that in a way, because I've always been someone who just I do work really intuitively, and I don't overthink things. I don't overplan things. I probably don't plan things well enough sometimes. But I try and go with the sort of just natural energy and rhythm of what's happening with the work, and build into that. I like to use, I think, strong lines. And in a way, I think I'm more comfortable, or as comfortable drawing as I am with a paintbrush. And so often the first lines that go down are really important and inform the whole work. So the style just came. It just came. And I think that maybe that is part of not starting painting until a little bit later, because I think that everything comes into that style, the way everything that's happened beforehand in terms of textile design and that sort of stuff, but also everything, the way that I dress and, everything about me comes into that painting. And that's a little bit more formed and developed by age 40, I guess.
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing.
Mm.
It's like you've got this little treasure chest inside you that you've been adding to all through your life, and then suddenly you open it up and it's ready.
Yes, and it's nice to talk about it in that way, because at the time I just felt so frustrated as well as liberated being able to start. By the time I did start painting, I felt I'm so behind. I thought, I'm so far behind. I've got so much catching up to do. I've got so much learning to do. And so the good part of that was what I already had in the tank, or the treasure trove, as you say.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
having the confidence to actually go there, it would have been quite daunting in some ways, even though you've sort of been thinking about it for some time.
Yes, and it's really funny. I look back and think, God, I don't know why I thought I could just launch myself like that, and quite quickly have an exhibition which I organised myself, and just I look back and think, wow, that was quite bold.
Yeah,
But I'm glad it did.
but good. Yeah, you did it.
Yes,
And
yeah,
your work seems so sort of formed around form. The
yes.
shapes seem to be the sort of basis of what you do and what you create. I read somewhere that you said that you're always looking for new forms to find themselves. So how do you approach shape?
Um, how do I approach shape? I start really loosely, usually, well, either with pencil or oil pastel, but with just really fluid, loose form. And I think that that beginning of the process for me just helps build the work in a way that feels natural to me, which is very organic, rounded form. Almost everything is. There's, like I say, no straight lines, lots of curves, and shape, I guess, just forms itself for me. Sometimes I have to bring myself back with shape, because everything is becomes quite rounded and soft, and I think that actually needs a harder line, or a thin a thin edge, or a tree to break up that landscape, which is just these rolling hills, or um, so I do have to kind of balance it out a little bit. But I guess, yeah, for me, shape just comes quite naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like you start with shape almost and then sort of build into that, whether it's a still life or a landscape or a vase of flowers. It seems to sort of just connect and respond to those initial shapes that you lay down. So how do you actually begin your creative process? You've talked about drawing, but how do you build the color, and how do you know what you're going to be making? Do you use photo references, or do you create a still life in front of you?
Both of those things. So still life, I do set up compositions in my studio. And I have lots of forms objects that I go back to, that I particularly like, particular shaped jug or vase or plate. And I just rearrange those elements, and then photograph them, and work from those two references. And if I'm doing a landscape, I will usually go out walking riverside and take a lot of photographs, and then bring them back to the studio and work from them, always loosely, because I don't necessarily need to achieve something that looks like a particular place. It's as important to me to get the feeling and the sense of being under a canopy of trees, or um, next to the river. I want the painting to feel like that as much as look like that. Yeah. In terms of process and putting starting work, I used to not gesso at all. I used to just work straight onto either canvas, or I work on linen a lot, because I love linen as a textile, and I love the texture of it, and the weave of that fabric. And I always wanted that to come through. So I'm not the person who puts down layers of gesso and gets this beautiful, clean, polished surface before I start. I actually like the texture to be part of the painting. So if I'm putting down a base layer, I'll often just put down a layer of part gesso and paint, or just straight paint in a color, usually a warm earthy color. And I like to let that show through often. and then just work my color blocks up from there, really. But I often do change a painting partway through and think this is wanting to be something else, and so it does morph sometimes. Yeah.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And so the work is so interesting because I guess you could say it's almost a sort of cubist feel with that sort of strong use of shape. Is that how
Mm.
you see it?
Sometimes, yeah, I do notice that I go back to that often, whether it's a floral or, a fruit. Um, yeah, and get back to those simplified, strong shapes. So that is definitely a thing for me. And I have referenced and sort of looked into a lot the work of some of those impressionist artists, and particularly the Fauves and that sort of period of painting where they had those really strong lines and shapes as well as strong color, really strong shapes and line. Yeah, which I love. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, you can see that influence as well. And
Mm.
you seem to work with lots of layers. How do you manage your paint in that way?
I think that's why I've stuck with acrylic for so long, probably, because I find it once I'm in a painting, I do like to work reasonably quickly on it. So I will just put down color blocks or layers of color, and then I have to make myself put it aside for a while, and before I go back to it. And so I do have a lot of work on the go at any one time, I guess at least half a dozen paintings. And then some of them will sit for a week, or some of them will actually sit for a month before I understand how to take them forward. Yeah.
Mhm.
But each one informs the other, I guess. That's the good thing about it. I sometimes can't unlock the key to the painting until I've completed something else first. And then I realize that's what that one needs. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
are you actually working in a sort of connected series in that way, or is it just that you like your paintings to speak to each other?
And a bit of both, I guess. I'm leading up to an exhibition as I am now. There's a series of work definitely going on. But if I'm in between sort of shows or working just on other pieces, I do I do still like that interplay of each work bringing the other along with it. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, Informing the other, whether it's color palette or composition. Yeah.
Yeah. I have read that you said that every painting for you holds a story. So, do you see your work as narrative? And if so, what are you trying to say?
Hmm. It's interesting. I probably wouldn't have used the word narrative, but really because as much as anything, I think a painting for me is usually more about a moment than a prolonged passage of time or thought. So I just really, for me, I think my main aim was my work is to convey a sense of being there at that time and feeling the light, or looking, into the piece and just feeling the presence of what is there, the trees or the water and or the fruit on the table, but actually just the sense of being immersed and how that feels as a viewer.
Mm.
Yeah.
And connecting, I mean, you say that you do a lot of walking around Nelson where you live, which is the most beautiful spot, and it's got so many lovely walking tracks. And the
Mm,
Maitai River is stunning. Uh,
yes.
so that would be a great source of inspiration for you, I imagine. But are you actually sort of recreating landscapes that you can see connect with a certain place for you? Or does it become a little bit more abstract and then the viewer can kind of connect and create their own landscapes in their head?
Mm. Good question. I think it's a little bit of both for me. I usually like to keep it open enough, a painting, that it's wherever, if you connect and you look at the painting and you see somewhere in Central Otago, then that painting, it could be of that place as much as it could be based in Nelson. But that's where I like to reference. I loosely reference landscape, but it's usually not of a particular geographical point, I guess. So I do like to keep that open because I do like that interpretation from the viewer. It's whatever resonates with them really at the time. And then there's a few pieces that I think this is the Maito River through and through, absolutely, down to, the last little ray of sun on that treetop. Yeah. So
and I do love the way you capture light and shadow and shade within your works, and sometimes in a very abstract way, but still it seems like every piece has the light somewhere.
yeah, thank you. I love that. I do think that's probably a key part of my work is trying to convey that, usually with warmth, and warm color palette, and occasionally with shadow. Yeah. So I launch into some beautiful blues and really love that for shade and shadow.
Yeah. I mean, you do talk about using warm, earthy tones, but you do seem to enjoy painting with blues as well.
Yeah, I do have little phases of blue. And I'm still learning about blue. I think there's so much in the color blue and so many different hues. But it's so strong, blue, to me. Yeah, it's incredibly strong color, and it can be so warm or so cool. So I'm definitely still learning about blue, and loving it for what it can give. Yeah, and I'm enjoying using it a little bit in this collection for Turua. Yeah, it's a really nice contrast for me because occasionally I think I look at a painting and I think there's so much there's of those warm tones that it needs a contrast, it needs a base, to pull it together. Yeah.
It's a really lovely combination. And then there's paintings like Dark as Night, which is quite a lot of blue as well, which seem more like sort of color studies. I think you've referred to them as that. So they're not really referencing landscape or still life, and a sort of probably slightly more purist or pure abstract expressionism or abstract.
Yes.
So how does that fit in within your other parts of your practice?
It was interesting. I started some paintings like that back in about 2018, I think, or I was maybe 2019, and working on large linen frame. I had them stretched as large linen pieces, and I was actually just working color into the surface, and realizing that they were large color studies, and actually they didn't need form. They just, so I had to hold myself back from creating form and just using color to express that work, and that convey a mood. And I didn't do any of those again for quite a while. And then Dark as Night was one of those ones that came back to that. And I just challenged myself to keep it really, really abstract. And it's something I'd like to explore a little bit more again, because I think then color is really has to work harder, because there's no form to cling to. And so that's a really interesting challenge and equation for me, to just convey mood through just colour and application to surface, without that sort of more figurative composition, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting, that little interplay, and it's a something, yeah, that I'd like to pursue a little bit further.
Yeah. And are those paintings quite textural and painterly?
Yes, not in terms of being built up, but definitely in terms of using that linen surface, and just letting that come through in the painting, and then picking it up with maybe an oil pastel, that then sits differently again across that surface. And as you drag it across, it's really picking up all the weave in the fabric. And I love using oil stick to highlight color as well. And I think for me, the foray back into oils that's a nice little segue, is using the oil stick as a really immediate mark making tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine if you did go into oils, that your work would actually really lend itself beautifully, especially those color studies. I can really see those in oils as well.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you like to show your brushstrokes, I presume.
Yes. Yeah, I do. So yeah, it is interesting, because sometimes I start layering up, say, a still life in acrylics with so much paint and so many layers. I think should just be doing this in oils. Yeah, because I think that would get that vibrancy and intensity, and that pigmentation of color just would be so much more immediate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Do you use mediums at all with your acrylics?
Not a lot. Yeah, occasionally. I've used a gloss gel and things, just to bring a little bit more of that sort of glossy texture to it. But I generally find my painting likes to sit quite matte on a surface. So that's that's, I think, why I sometimes use the oil stick or oil pastel, is create a bit of height and contrast, because otherwise, I think the acrylics, for me, just innately like to sit quite flat on this, quite a matte finish generally, not a varnished finish. Yeah.
No, which is lovely, and it's again a feature of your work, I think. And just seeing all the color studies and the landscapes and the still lives and the flower studies all together is just, they really do talk to each other and complement each other, and do seem like a really cohesive body of work. It's really beautiful work you're
Thank
making.
you. Yeah. I just love what I do. That's the other thing. I feel so incredibly fortunate to be doing this work in painting. So it is, although it definitely labor and time, and there are sacrifices, and I take it really seriously, in terms of establishing a solid painting practice. I do just find it so joyful to be painting. So I hope that comes through in my work.
It really does. So let's just talk about your galleries. Obviously, you're with Te Gallery, and they are supporting very kindly this episode. Thank you,
Yes.
Liz and Dean, for that. And you have your work in the Little River Gallery.
Yeah, they're just out of about 45 minutes out of Christchurch. So it's a bit of a destination, but it's on the way to Akaroa. So they get a lot of travellers through there, and it's a really special space, actually, Little River. Really, really beautiful gallery.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
lovely. And
Yeah.
so it's just the two galleries that you have, one in the South Island, one in the North?
In my local gallery in Nelson, which is Red Art Gallery here in town. So it's always lovely to have a local spot. And they have a really thriving little business that in terms of there's a cafe adjoining the gallery, so it's always got a nice hum to it and lots of foot traffic. And I've just started working with De Novo in Dunedin as well. Yeah,
Oh, great.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying. Yeah,
Fantastic. So you've got a nice spread across the country, which is always good. At
yes,
Tuarua, you were part of the Happiness Project group show in May, and then you
yeah.
also had a solo show there last year. And you've had other solo shows and group shows at your various galleries. So you're pretty busy. Is that the way you like to operate?
I guess so. I've been lucky, I think, to work with these galleries that they will just say, how about a solo in, next year in June? And I think, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And then think, wow, I've really got a lot of work to do now. But it's so, I guess what I mean is that's that lovely relationship with the gallery, isn't it? They're helping establish and develop and support your practice, and timing those exhibitions, that I think, that it works as in terms of your exposure to the
Mm,
market, is important, not to oversaturate and but to be really have a presence. So I do feel like the balance is good, and I always like to have a show or something in mind that I'm working towards generally. I've got a bit of a break coming up though after this Turua show, and that's probably not a bad thing because apart from a few commissions that have been long promised, um, that I need to get to, it'd probably be a good chance to just step back actually and regroup a little bit in terms of um, direction for my painting going forward. I want to feel like I'm still progressing what I'm doing and pushing things a little bit. Yeah.
and evolving.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. I think that's one of the great challenges of being an artist and working for oneself. Um, that you have to be very motivated in that way to keep improving. So I do think for me, it's going to be some workshops or something to just really just try and spark something that I know I'm looking for and can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
exciting. That's an exciting place to be in some ways.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a shame in a way that you're not in Auckland because there's amazing places like Brown School of Art, which I'm sure you would love.
Right. Yeah, I know. I keep threatening my family that I'm just going to book something and do it because I do feel probably Nelson winter is a little bit quiet. So it's
Yeah.
definitely important to get out and just have those moments of illumination, whether it's an exhibition or a workshop or something like that, just to stay really fresh and inspired. And
Yeah.
fabulous lecture on the British modernists, abstraction, working into abstraction in the 1930s in Cornwall and St Ives, which was like this hotbed of art at the time. And it's absolutely fizzing after that because that's I've always loved the British modernist
Mm,
period. And I thought, gosh, if that 1 hour lecture just lights me up so much, it's definitely something I need to get more of. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And that can just so really motivate and sort of get you charging, as you say, and
Yes.
sort of and sometimes down a different road, which is also exciting. With your design background, I'm sure that has some influence on some of the things that you do with your art practice and probably also your business sense that you have. But you do have a very beautiful website,
Thank
Georgina
you.
Hoby Scutt Art and Design. Love it. And it's just very clean and lovely and very intuitive and easy to find your way around. And it's
Correct.
got a lovely selection of original paintings and your limited edition prints. So, can you tell us about the website and how you operate it, how you manage it, and then how you generate sales through your website?
Mm. It's probably a little bit neglected. There's so much more I could do on it and with it. But look, it's a great landing spot. I just built the site using Shopify. I think, typical of a lot of self-employed artists, there was no budget really to draw on. So it was just find a template that looks good and build it yourself. But it's great because I can update it and edit it and control it all myself. And if I have a new original painting available, I can, photograph that and upload it. And I just use it very much in tandem with Instagram because that's become an incredibly powerful tool for me. I'm amazed at how much traffic Instagram drives. And although I'm definitely drowning in the new algorithms and things that are working against me, but I find it amazing that people will see something on Instagram, go to the website and buy a painting online and not having seen it in the flesh as such. And it's brilliant. So it's opened up a nationwide market and buyers abroad as well. It's really, really brilliant. So I just try and keep the website up to date, basically, and launching kind of a few new prints whenever some of the other editions run out, and just because I do think that affordable art side is really important for people who maybe don't have the budget for an original. It's really important to have an offering that is achievable for someone as a gift or to do that. So that's I have that spread, and basically the limited edition prints help pay the rent. They really do.
That's
so
right. They just kind of tick along, don't they?
Yes, yeah.
So how do you run your prints? How do you decide what you'd like to make an edition of and what number that would be? And then what's your process working with a printer and a photographer potentially?
I've got a really great printer who's actually also my framer. They frame up all my original paintings, but they have a big, beautiful printer in there. So I use them, and it just makes it really seamless, actually, because they package up the prints. They print them. I go in and sign a number, and they package them up and have them there ready to go, whether it's going to be sold through to one of the galleries or an individual online order. So I found that's a really great way to work with them. And I usually photograph the pieces myself on my iPhone.
Really?
Yeah. Occasionally the printer takes their own photo, but usually it's mine. And the quality, I do adjust them and edit them, but the quality is generally good enough for the G clay printer. I'll either take a painting that's had a really great response online in an exhibition or on Instagram and think that's got a really popular appeal, or one that I'm particularly happy with that I think this piece would work really well as a reproduction on paper, and just go with that really. And particularly it's nice to have a few New Zealand landscapes for any of the tourists coming through.
Yeah, very much so. And do you find it hard to manage, orders coming through and sort of actioning that whole process through your website?
I think I've become better at it. Yeah, I've gotten on top of that a little bit more, but also it's not hugely busy sales wise. It just ticks over really, and more so the prints would sell through galleries, and it's definitely something that if I have the time. It's something that I need to push more and invest in, and use social media. I mean, there's definitely a lot more that I could do there, to make it busier. But I tend to prioritize painting time. Yeah, because that is basically school hours, for me.
Yeah.
So um, there's barely enough of it anyway. So I definitely, if I can actually just be picking up a paintbrush rather than admin on the website, that usually happens in the evening, or
Yeah.
those spare moments. So yeah, the website is a really fantastic tool, but I guess, yeah, this studio exhibition, and hanging in a physical space is something I prioritize. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is a lovely website. I think it's a really good example of an artist website. And I do really love your blog, which I guess probably a lot of the content is mirrored in your Instagram account. But,
Right.
it's just a nice sort of personal connection with whoever's looking at the website. Just, letting people know what's coming up, some
Great.
articles that have been written about you or that you've written, and any other sort of publicity. It's a nice record, I guess, of what you're up to,
Yes.
which is nice. And your Instagram page is very much like that too. I love the way you often say hello in your
Yeah.
posts,
It's
which
funny, isn't it?
it's nice. Yeah, I really
Mhm.
notice that. It feels
Oh, that's
quite
good.
personal. Yeah,
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Because it's funny, with the blog, I don't think anyone ever reads my blog, but I guess
I did.
some people do. Yes, and that makes me think I must write another blog, a post, and the same with Instagram. I think, as with a lot of us, you think, I'm not sure how this comes across, or if people are reading this or responding to this, but I guess it's just about being genuine and consistent, isn't it?
Yeah,
And just trying to post good content. So, yeah,
absolutely.
and you don't always get, it's changing all the time. You don't always get a whole lot of likes or a whole lot of traffic going to the website, but I think you have to. Someone said to me once, it's you have to play the long game with Instagram and just actually concentrate on building a really consistent aesthetic feed that that looks great as a whole story. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what I hope to do.
yeah. I think you do.
Mm.
Yes. Oh, well, there's lots of ins and outs of all of that social media stuff, and
Yes.
sometimes we could do it better, and sometimes we do okay. And
Mm.
I enjoy showing parts of my garden and my studio because that's important to
Yeah.
me, and
Yes.
I want to share that with my social media family, I suppose.
Yeah, that's so nice because it builds up your personal story.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah, it makes it really relatable.
yeah. Hopefully. Anyway, shall we start the questions? Are we ready?
Sure. I think so.
I think so. Okay, I'm good. I'm ready. Um,
Great.
what would you say to your younger artistic self, Georgie?
Um, I would say what I guess are the basics in life as much as art, which is believe in yourself, have self confidence in your own ability, and for me personally, I'd say be more patient, take your time because it is going to come together. Just it's not something that can be rushed. Um, so just to enjoy the process of painting, and trust that it will come together if you just let it breathe. Um, they would be the two main things, I think.
Mm. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of being an artist?
I think on a mental level, I think it's that constant challenge of staying inspired, and making your work reflect where you're at in your practice, but also, challenging yourself to keep learning and improving and pushing some boundaries so that it stays really fresh and interesting. And on a really practical level, I think I'd say it's a real challenge to kind of satisfy the purely artistic freedom side with the commercial side of selling work. It's really easy to get sucked into that. That was a successful show because it all sold. I think I'm really fortunate that my shows have sold really well. And so that feels successful, but it shouldn't necessarily be a marker of success. And I think the danger is getting sucked into painting in a way that I know what will probably sell, but whether that's how I should be painting is a different question. And am I growing as an artist if I just keep painting for the market? There needs to be that really delicate balance between paying the bills and selling work and feeling that this is a really sort of relevant career path for me, and then actually really pushing stuff and trying to get to a whole new level that does challenge and maybe is unexpected for my audience, and then finding a newer audience and just growing a practice into something that I want to I don't want it to feel safe or predictable necessarily.
Yeah. And it feels like you're definitely coming to that stage where you're ready to push yourself down into sort of out of your comfort zone slightly.
Yes. Yeah. I hope so. I think that's I feel that's the next step for me, which is exciting.
Yeah, it is. Can't wait to see what you come up with.
Mm.
And you've mentioned the Fauvists, but who are your artists that really inspire you?
So in terms of contemporary artists, I love Heather Chontos, who is she was in France. She's now moved to Portugal. Does fabulous work with color and line, abstracted forms, but I basically love everything that she does, and I think she's so talented. And also really brave in life. You can see she just shows a little bit on that her Instagram account of moving with children to Portugal on her own and kind of knowing no one and setting up a new home and studio. And I think she's really brave. And she not only sort of paints beautiful canvases, and she also ends up painting all over her walls and her kitchen and her home and, decorating every surface. So I think she's a real true artist. So I love her work. Two Australian artists, James Drinkwater, who I think is brilliant, really, really brilliant. I've seen videos of him working, and I think his whole creative process is really fascinating and deep, and just he's what I'd say is a true artist. And Inga Dalrymple, who I just love her looseness of line and her color palette, which is quite muted, and she's doing some really beautiful gestural work, which I admire. So they would be the contemporary names. And then, I mean, going back, I think, as I said, the British modernists, but Ivan Hitchens, who does beautiful loose still lifes, and Mary Fedden, who did also a lot of still life painting, but in a really playful way, with a beautiful sense of color. And I think Helen Frankenthaler is just
I was waiting for that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes.
I thought, is she an inspiration? And yes, she is, because
Yeah.
I think just such a pioneer and such an independent spirit, really brave with the way she came up with those new techniques, and stunning sense of color and scale, which is, the next something I'd like to get into, larger scale work as well. So she's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally see that. And I think, I mean, I was going to ask if you thought of your work as color field paintings.
Yeah, interesting. Not yet, because I suppose that I feel that there's generally a scale to that, which is larger, and larger washes of color and body of color, whereas mine is more broken up in a smaller scale. But I notice that I do crop my paintings quite closely, and often things are sort of spilling off the sides. So I think that a lot of them would translate well in a larger scale. So I think then the blocks of color become larger. It inherently becomes more abstract. So I think that is the way that I'm naturally going to go.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that. And I think that is very exciting.
Yes. Yeah. Me
Yeah.
too.
Oh, wow.
Nice to articulate it, actually, because sometimes I think I've had these thoughts swirling around for a while. So it's actually nice to crystallize them in words, probably, and
Yeah,
commit as well.
exactly. You're
Yeah.
accountable now.
Yes.
You're on file saying it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it.
Have you
Yes.
finished your list?
I have finished my
Yeah,
list.
that's a
Yes.
lovely list.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will look into those Australian artists.
Thank you.
And last but not least, why do you make the kind of work that you make?
I make my work to share energy and mostly joy in the celebrating everyday humble objects of still life that's relates to home, I guess, in a sense of comfort, and landscapes where I try and capture the light, because I think there's something just really familiar for people to connect with, and that feeling of beauty and optimism that light brings. So I guess I'm trying to convey all those things to a viewer, that it is a joy and it's a beauty, or sometimes a darkness, but just that those feelings and emotions that we have every day, that resonate with us. And that's what I'm trying to express through my painting.
And I think you absolutely do. Your
Mhm.
work is really beautiful. So it's been a complete joy meeting you, Georgie. I hope that I see you on opening night at Turua Gallery for your duality show, which is, as I said, starting on July the 26th, which isn't too far away. It's been so nice talking to you, and I can't wait to see what you do with your larger scale, potentially colour field paintings. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Mandy. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a real privilege to share with you. So thank you for your words. It's a really lovely thing to do. So all the best, and thank you for the opportunity.